Welcome to the Millionaire Journey Podcast. The goal of this podcast is to guide and empower you on your journey towards financial independence. Here's your host, Glenn Yaney.
Today, my guest is Chris Duffy with Pioneer Property Partners. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, Glenn. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so met about a year ago and, through sending some mobile home parks to us. And then I saw that you just recently bought a mobile home park. If you could, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, for sure, man. So I'm based out of Florida. I would say got into real estate, maybe 3-4 years ago, kind of just part-time. But I mean, if you back up further than that, my background's in construction. So I was working for Florida general contractor, then came over to Tampa, was doing some heavy commercial contracting, just kind of out in the field, like getting the work done. And then somewhere along the line, started buying just like small single family, like bought a few units, just kind of grinding. I took on like a second full-time job. It was kind of like all I was doing was working. Got my real estate license somewhere in there and, kind of just kept working a regular 9-to-5 job, working for contractors. I did some custom homes. Then I wound up working for like a pretty large real estate company, Cushman and Wakefield. Was in like kind of a construction management division there. And wound up buying my first park about 6-7 months ago now at this point. And then jumped full time into kind of brokerage and investments really only like a few months ago. So I feel like I've been in the game for a while, but I've always just sort of dabbled, and it's only been pretty recent that I've just decided to sort of burn the boats and go all in. So I don't know how far back you want me to go. That's probably my life.
No, it's great.
Childhood, if you want. No.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's great. Sounds like a perfect, it's funny. Like it's like when we first get started in our career, whatever it is, it's almost like skill stacking. We don't even know what we're going to.
Yeah.
And,
good way to put it.
with construction and then getting into real estate and yeah, it's awesome. So tell us a little bit about your buying this mobile home park.
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like I kind of, probably when you and I first wound up talking for the first time, I was like starting to get into parks, kind of starting to just, I guess, educate, look at them a lot more. And I had like a former business partner, like friend kind of bring them to me. And I just like never really thought about them. Maybe that's how a lot of people look. It's like, oh, it's really parks, right? But then start to learn more about them. And they're really just such a cool asset class. So, started to kind of just build up a good database of parks. And then maybe, again, like 6-7 months ago, made a cold call to I'm a big cold caller, made a cold call to a park owner in Alabama. And she was like, well, I don't want to sell my park, but, the guy is like the next county over. He called me up the other day and said he really wants to get rid of his park. And I was like, well, do you have his phone number there? And she was like, yeah, I got it here somewhere. She like found, she was like, yeah, here you go. So I called the guy up out of the blue, just kind of, I guess, played dumb a little bit. I was like, hey, curious to see if you'd be open to an offer on your park. And he was like, yeah, actually we are. And we just sort of started talking about probably the same thing as you sort of back of the napkin, you get some upfront information. And I was like, well, on paper, this sounds pretty good. He kind of told me his price. And I was like, well, on paper, that sounds pretty dang good.
Yeah.
So, I said, well, let me take a look at it. And then I asked him for like a rent roll and the financials and everything. And lucky for me, I mean, it was a mom and pop owner, but he was a CPA by trade. So he actually had like pretty solid books and record keeping for the most part. And so he sent me everything and I was like, this feels like a buy all day. And so just sent him a contract and got it tied up. And we wound up taking it down. So it was a good buy.
Yeah, the interesting part about mobile home park owners is it's not exactly, it feels like a very mom and pop purchase, but at the same time, it's still a commercial asset. So you have to be somewhat sophisticated to take it down in the first place. And even though the park might not be in great condition, I think sometimes it's like one of those things where you walk in somebody's shoes and you'll end up making the same decisions as they do. And And it's just an example of the goal for us is just to figure out how to make it easier to manage the parks. And
Mm,
what I can tell you is how people become slumlords is through, uh, trying to maximize revenue, not, you know, not worry about the tenant base, and that stuff just wears you down real quick. And
sure.
you turn into a slumlord, not overnight. It's like a slow process, and then
Mhm.
I think it just turns into where they're just tired of throwing money into the property.
Right.
So, and that's common with a lot of the small park owners.
Yeah, yeah. We were fortunate with this one because when we went up and looked at it, we got on a plane, flew there, and it was it was still a trailer park at the end of the day in Alabama. So I mean, there's a little hair on it, but they had actually kept in pretty good shape. So still had to deal with some headaches for sure, but not like they hadn't like run the thing into the ground and too big of a turnaround maybe for your first park. So
Yeah, especially being a plane flight away.
a whole plane ride or a 10-hour car ride away.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, that was another thing because I was like, I don't know. I never really like considered like buying something that far away, but it was just like too good. And I was like, we'll figure it out. And I've always been like, oh, you should buy real estate like right in your backyard. And I've like since moved away from that. Like with the right systems, you really can buy. It helps to be right down the road. And I know you guys own pretty close by too,
yeah,
which is
yep.
great. But you can do it.
Hey guys, if you want to learn more about our deals we're investing in, go to our website and sign up for our free ebook, 10 Reasons Mobile Home Parks Outperform Other Real Estate Investments. We won't spam you. We'll just keep you updated on the podcast and the deals we're working on. Now, back to the show. So I know a lot of people that are listening probably could relate to your story very, just a very relatable story, buying your first park. Tell us like really, we're going to go into the details of it. So how did you raise the money to buy the park?
Yeah, so I actually didn't raise any money for this one. I sold another property, and I partnered with the broker and my business partner Dan Fisher, uh, based out of here in Tampa with Atlas Bay. Him and I actually went just 50-50 on it, so I didn't have to raise any outside money. Um, I can tell you the quick story. Basically, I had a single family unit here in Tampa that I wanted to get rid of. I built up some good equity in it, and it was becoming kind of a headache for me. And the parts, the stars kind of aligned well with it, and I was simultaneously, renovating that single family unit, still working my 9 to 5 job, and then I had this park under contract that we were doing due diligence on. So I was like, just, wearing a lot of hats kind of all at once and got that one sold kind of like right in time to have the money to then immediately throw it into the park and close on time. So,
Yeah. So if you, so then, and then when it comes to like operations, like how do you break that down?
yeah, so it's an entirely tenant owned community, which your viewers, probably don't
Ideal.
know. Yeah, like, in a park, in case anybody doesn't know, I guess, right? I mean, you can either own the homes and rent those out, or you can sell them to, your tenants own them and you rent the lots. So, our park is 100% tenant owned. That was another reason I was willing to sort of go a little further than my backyard. So we wound up hiring a third party property manager. Now we are probably in touch with them every other day, um, working on something. But the biggest sort of, I mean, really the biggest, I'm not going to call it a lift, but like what we've had to do as far as like asset management with them was like, we first took over the park. We got everyone repapered on new leases, except for maybe like one or two who were having like some, according to the previous rent roll, maybe some collections issues. Um, so getting everyone repapered, getting everyone online with Appfolio. So the landlord previous to us was just collecting like, you drove to his office and handed him cash, which obviously we weren't going to keep up with that anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
getting everyone online, paying online, and then we submetered all the water. So that was a big value add we did up front. But we pretty much did all this remote, kind of working through our property manager. And I wound up having to really take the horns on kind of a lot because our property manager is actually really good. But there's like certain things that they just like hadn't really handled before. So like I wound up like, literally being on the phone with like a plumber like out there like doing the sub metering, and like my background's construction. Like, I mean, I'm not a licensed GC, but I know enough to be dangerous. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
at least like probably no more than the average bear. So I mean, to answer your question a long way, like it's all been kind of remote.
Yeah.
Even like an eviction we had to handle again, like through our property manager. So I mean, we've only been up once since we purchased it, and I guess quick disclaimer on that for anybody listening, it's kind of a unique park in that way because like we're able to do it a little more hands off, but your average mobile home park is not
Yeah.
going to be hands off. You can second that. If you're buying like an all POH community and it's hairy and there's all sorts of issues, like there's no way. Like you have to be there. But this was just one of those sort of, I'll call it a unicorn park. I mean, really, no way. So
Yeah. No, it's and the thing about when you see Alabama parks, it always seems like the numbers look really good. And I
mhm,
I don't know enough, and it's like once you get your roots set, it's like hard to leave, So it's like we're in the Central Florida, so it's like if I
right.
started buying in Alabama, I'd probably want to buy more in Alabama. But so tell
So,
us like what was something you didn't know? And the best part about it is that you used your own money. So if there was any mistakes or anything like that, it's kind of like uh,
yeah,
it's it's very forgiving because it's you're your worst enemy. So
yeah, no, I feel good getting my first larger deal. I mean, it's not a massive park, it's 30 sites, but I felt good getting a sizable deal under my belt with my own money first because
yeah,
we do have plans to expand and eventually grow, which will likely require outside money. So I like the idea of kind of getting a track record a little bit first
yeah.
prior to doing that. So yeah, definitely just kind of having to answer to ourselves is pretty nice.
So would you say that buying that park was a big launching pad to leave your regular W-2 to go to where you're at now?
Yeah, yeah, it was massive. I mean, it was kind of in the works for a while because I primarily broker parks, and I you get to a point where you can't. I mean, I get some people can maybe they got more bandwidth than me, but I was just like I can't like fully go. I can't give this 100% of myself if I'm still working kind of a regular job. And I did it for a while, and I built up a lot of good runway, but kind of once I bought the park, put enough money away, and had a few other brokerage deals going, I was like, it felt very now or never because I don't have children yet. I mean, I'm not even married. Yeah, I have a serious girlfriend, but I'm not married. And I was like, I'll probably never be able to afford this much risk. I'm just going to go, and what's going to happen? I can always come back. I mean, my former job was like, hey, come back anytime you want. It's like, you know, I think you build up the risk in your head so
Yeah.
much, you're going to just be homeless on the street.
Yep.
And if you're a resourceful person and have good relationships and skills, it's not very likely that's going to happen. So,
Definitely. And willing to pick up the phone and cold call.
hey, yeah, being willing to cold call, whatever you do, even if it's not real estate, I feel like will take you places.
I've literally been seeing that in my mastermind group, and I'm like, these guys are killing it, and all they're doing is cold calling. I'm like, how do you, it's like they look at me because I'm managing like real estate, as in I have passive income, and I'm looking at them. They're getting these massive checks, and I'm like, how do I
Sure.
do that? you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say, yeah, again, whatever industry you're in, I think, it doesn't even necessarily have to be cold calling, but the mindset of just like reaching out and going to the opportunity, I think is whatever you're doing is going to pay off.
So, what would you say like a regular day for you now would be, as in outside of managing the mobile home parks? Like, do you have a list of numbers to call, or how does that work daily?
Yeah, sure. I do my best to sort of time block all my days, but I mean, as anyone can attest to, it's very hard to stick to that 100% of the time. But I try to carve out the first part of my day and just cold call. That's kind of all I do. I have a dialer. I have lists of thousands of mobile home parks that I've built up now for years, just combing through and cultivating a very large database. Um, I'm really big on like having good data, and like, anytime I call somebody, I'm kind of like, hey, I know their first name, I know the park address, I know like a little bit about the park. Um, and I find that, I only get the phone slammed down on me like every so often. It
Yeah.
seems to help. Um, so the first, to answer your question, the first part of my day, I'm just calling them, just literally trying to, see if somebody's willing to sell, whatever that looks like. And then, the second part of my day, for the most part, say like after lunch, is trying to generate offers on any opportunities that I'm like brokering, mixed in with like if I'm having to address anything with like the mobile home park operations or anything. And Dan, the guy I own the park with, his office is right next to mine. I'm at home right now, but where we have an office in Tampa, so it's like if something's going on, and I can just basically walk next door. Um, so first part of the day is like cold calling. Second part is trying to get offers on any deals that we might have, or just dealing with operations. And I try to keep it, I try to keep it simple in that way. It's kind of how my day usually shakes out.
Awesome. Yeah. So tell us, just tell us a little bit about, I guess sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought on that one.
Sure.
I guess, what's the goals for the next year to 5 years?
Um, yeah. So, I'm trying, we're trying to grow, I guess on the buyer side, we're kind of focused in the Tuscaloosa market where we own, as far as like on the buyer side of things. So building a decent portfolio kind of in that area. And I think eventually we'd like to sell off a good sizable portfolio in the Tuscaloosa area. Kind of on the brokerage side of things, we're brokering nationwide. And my goal is to definitely be, a top performing broker at some point in the next 5 years. I would say, yeah, I tried to like circle a number around it, like as far as like commissions go. Certainly like up there. And then, I wrote myself a goal that by 30, I'm 32, by 35, I would be financially independent. So generating enough passive income, from investments to where I could stop working, but I don't see myself ever stopping working, but having the option to do so.
Awesome. So, where can people find you?
They could find me. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. If you go to just type in Chris Duffy, maybe try to type in Pioneer Property Partners or Atlas Big Commercial, and I should come up. Or my email is chris@pioneerpropertypartners.net. And people can drop me a line there or find me on LinkedIn and Instagram too. Got Pioneer Property Partners, kind of a mouthful, but if you type that handle in, that'll come up too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Glenn.
Thank you for listening to the Millionaire Journey podcast. Please rate, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share with somebody you think would enjoy listening.